All right, today we are going to do lesson 3-5, slopes of lines. And our objective today is to find the slope of a line and then to use those slopes to identify parallel and perpendicular lines. Now, I know that you have all learned slopes of lines before, so we're going to start off with a little review on what a slope of a line is and how to find the slope of the line. So this will be review for you, and hopefully you'll remember how to do it from learning it in algebra. So first for our vocabulary, we're going to go ahead and do those same vocabulary down here on our chart. So our first key concept is to find the rise and the run and to talk about the slope. So the rise is the difference in the y value. So difference in y values. So if I was to find the difference in the y values, remember y is my vertical axis, then I would find out how much am I going up by on the vertical line here. So I started at 1 and I'm going up to 7. I went a little too far in my example here. There we go, up to 7. So how much is that? And that is a rise of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's a rise of 6. So over here, I would say in my example, I have a rise of 6. Okay? Now let's take a look at the run. The run is the difference in x values. So how far am I going left and right? So in my case, I'm going this far. I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because I'm going from a run of 5 there, okay? So now then my run is 5. So my slope is a ratio of the rise over the run. And my rise over run in this case is 6 and over 5. Okay? If I were to use the slope formula, and you learned a slope formula from earlier in the years in Algebra 1 and maybe earlier than that. But your slope formula is this. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's your slope formula. And usually in the formulas, slope goes by the lowercase cursive letter m. So if we have m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's figure that out. So my y's are 7 and 1. And so I'm going to go 7 minus 1. Over my x's are 6 and 1. So I'm going to go 6 minus 1. And that gives me 6 over 5, which is what I got up here. Now, sometimes people get all worried about whether or not you should do your, which point you write first when you do this equation. So I'm here to tell you it doesn't make any difference which one you start with as long as you're consistent. So if I started with this point here, like I did, I went 7 minus 1, then I also have to start with the same point, 6 minus 1. If instead, and I'll do this down here, I start with this one, so I'll do this in a different color. If I start with this one instead, I would do, my y's would be 1 minus 7, over my x's would be 1 minus 6. Then I would get negative 6 over negative 5, but my answer is still the same, positive 6 over positive 5, which is what I got over here. So it does not matter which point you start with, as long as you're consistent and you do the same point on the numerator as you do on the denominator. Okay? So that's how you find the slope of the line. Now, it's important that you know what the different slopes, which order or which direction they go in. So a positive slope, if this was our x and y axis, x and y, a positive slope always goes in this direction. It goes up from left to right. A negative slope always goes in this direction. Here's my x, here's my y. It always goes down from left to right. So anytime you have a slope going down, you know that your slope answer will be negative. In this case, my slope answer is positive 6/5 because I'm going up from left to right, just like it is here. A zero slope is when it is a horizontal line. That has a zero slope. And an undefined slope is when you have a vertical line. Vertical line, so that would be like this would be an undefined slope. And how I remember which one is which here and here is if you go skiing and you're on the slopes and your slope looks like this, you're having zero fun because you're not going anywhere. But if you're going skiing and you jump off of a cliff, you don't want to do that. It's undefined. Don't even bother doing it because you might get hurt seriously. So those are our 4 different slopes of the types of lines we have: positive, negative, zero, and undefined. Okay? Now let's talk about using this information for doing parallel and perpendicular. So if you are in a plane and you have 2 non-vertical lines, they are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal. So if you have one line that has a slope of 1/2 and another line that has a slope of 1/2, then you know that those 2 lines are parallel because they have equal slopes. Any 2 vertical lines will also be parallel. Perpendicular line theorem. In a plane, any 2 non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if the product, that means multiply, of the slopes equals -1. And another way to say this is that the slopes are opposite reciprocals of each other, which means that you take the fraction and you flip it. That's the reciprocal piece. And the opposite piece is one of them has to be positive and the other one has to be negative. And vertical and horizontal lines are also perpendicular. Okay, let's do some examples. So here we have a couple of examples here. We want to try and find out if these 2 lines are parallel, okay? So first we want to find our slope. So let's find the slope of AB. So M is slope of line AB. And so we want to subtract the y's. So I'm going to go 5 minus 1 over, subtract the x's, 1 minus 2, equals 4 over -1, which equals -4. So let's see if the other one also equals -4. So we're finding the slope M of line CD. So we're going to subtract the y's, so -2 minus 2, over, subtract the x's, 5 minus 4. So that equals -4 over +1, which still equals -4. So as you can see by this example, AB is indeed parallel to CD because their slopes are equal to each other. Okay, now let's look at perpendicular. So we're going to find the slopes of these 2 lines. So the slope M of line FG, subtract our y's, 2 minus 1, over, subtract our x's, 2 minus 1, So that gives us 1 over 1, which equals 1. Now find the slope of hj. So the m slope of hj equals, subtract our y's, 2 minus 1, over subtract our x's, 1 minus 2, equals 1 over negative 1, which is negative 1. So these two show that it's perpendicular. FG is perpendicular to HJ because the slopes multiply to negative 1. 1 times negative 1 equals negative 1. They are also opposite reciprocals of each other. This slope has a slope of 1 over 1, and the other one has a slope of negative 1 over 1. So they reciprocal is the same, and one of them's positive and one of them's negative, so they are perpendicular. All right? So that's parallel and perpendicular lines and finding out if they are parallel or perpendicular by using slopes. All right, see you next time.